It is time to take a look at your money now. Historically, low-income families and retirees tend to be the most vulnerable to impact of inflation. But over the past 2 years, more and more middle-class households have been struggling to make ends meet as well. According to a recent survey by financial services company LendingClub, 62% of all Americans now say that they are living paycheck to paycheck. And our financial advisor, Mark Gravicheski, is joining us live this morning. Good morning, Mark. It is good to see you.
Hey, good morning to you, David. Great to see you again, as always.
Yeah, so we have seen inflation gradually decline from its peak of 8.9% in June to the current rate of 6%. Why do you think we're still seeing so many people still living paycheck to paycheck, even though inflation is coming down?
Well, David, I think one of the misconceptions people often have is that when inflation, does start to decline a little bit, that it means consumer prices are also declining, and that's just not the case. Remember, David, the definition of inflation is the annual increase in consumer prices. With inflation now at 6%, that means, David, that on average, consumer prices are still 6% higher than they were 12 months ago. So consumer prices are still rising, just at a slightly slower pace. But the identifying hallmark, David, of this current inflationary cycle is that some of the biggest increases in prices are on everyday basic necessities. Think of food, clothing, housing, energy costs. And that makes it extremely difficult for many Americans to, I guess what you could say is to try and navigate and avoid these high prices. You need to buy those everyday basic necessities to provide for you and your family.
Absolutely, you do. And in another survey by LendingTree, 44% of Americans now say that they have to have a side job in order to make ends meet. This is up from 13% in 2020. So what are other ways that people can improve their financial situation that maybe isn't a side job?
Yeah, that's an incredible jump, David. If you think about it, from 13% in 2020 all the way up, to 44%. One of my main recommendations is to really analyze and focus on your cash outflows. Really keep track of your expenses and where you're spending your money. Go through all of those bills and credit card statements with a fine-tooth comb. In today's world of automatic payments, you'd be surprised, David, at the number of people who are paying membership fees and subscriptions and monthly expenses for things they don't even use anymore. And this also allows you to, try to identify and really reevaluate what specific costs are necessary living expenses versus, maybe some of those non-essential costs that you may want to reduce or even eliminate. And second, with today's high interest rates, David, many credit cards are now charging you an interest rate of over 25%.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you do have to carry, some type of credit card balance, see if you can transfer that balance to a credit card offering, maybe a promotional 0% interest rate, or at least one that simply has a much lower interest rate. It definitely pays to shop around and search for those lower rate credit cards and promotions.
Wow, 25%. That is a striking number. And last week, OPEC and Russia also announced that a coordinated production cut of crude oil. So does that mean that we're going to start to see those gas prices start to rise again? And what impact might this have on inflation?
Yeah, this combined production cut, David, by OPEC and Russia is quite significant and is expected to last at least through the end of this year. And this latest production cut is already on top of a previous production cut that both OPEC and Russia announced back in October. Now, in the 2 days immediately after this announcement, David, the price for a barrel of crude oil rose 10% from 74 up to over $81. And unfortunately, many analysts are now expecting crude oil prices to reach $100 a barrel by the end of the year. Now, with respect to gasoline prices, David, anytime crude oil prices rise, you'll see a corresponding rise in prices for, gasoline and diesel fuel, jet fuel, heating oil. All of those products are produced from a single barrel of crude oil. And gas prices are already starting to inch a little bit higher over the last week. And finally, David, my thoughts on inflation. Look, I would argue, David, that the decline in inflation we've seen since June was really primarily driven by a decline in crude oil prices. But if crude oil prices do start to rise again, I do have a serious concern that we could see inflation reverse its current downward trajectory and actually start to rise again. So that's something we want to keep an eye on.
Oh, Mark, yeah, absolutely. Because the price of that, if the gas goes up, the price of that goes up, the cost to move things around also goes up. So, all right, Mark. Well, we thank you so much for your expertise, and we will see you next Monday.
Great to see you again, David. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.